All right. Well, welcome back, watchers, listeners, whatever you may be watching this on, listening to this on. We are back with another episode a little bit later than normal just because of some scheduling conflicts, but we are back with Marriage Story this week. So, Natalie, how's it been not doing the podcast? How have you been the past couple weeks before we jump into it?
Been good. I went to Florida, which is part of the scheduling conflicts, to go
Mm-hmm.
to Disney World, one of my favorite places on this earth. And it was
Mm-hmm.
really good, nice and sunny.
And then you came home to watch this depressing movie.
Yeah, it's your fault. How
Well,
are
before we
you?
get
How
in,
have you been?
I've been good. Honestly, I couldn't have timed this at a worse or better time because literally like 2 days ago, I got rejected by a girl and then I had to watch Marriage Story, which was such a terrible 1-2 combo.
Dang.
But we're here.
Heavy
So
hitters.
yeah.
Sorry, dude.
Besides that, it's been great. I've had a marvelous last few weeks. I've gotten back into the gym finally. Uh,
I need to get on that gym grind.
yes. I mean, not that I think you need to, but it's just nice to be
No,
back.
it's necessary.
Yes. I wish I would have done this in the winter so I could, be freaking hot over the summer, but I guess I'll just have to,
By the
I
end
don't
of the
know.
summer.
By the end of the summer, I'll have something, hopefully. But anyways,
That's right.
so before we get into this movie, for the fun segment today, I didn't really know exactly what to
How
do
to make Marriage
because,
Story
yeah, how
fun.
to make a marriage story fun segment. Natalie, what will you do if you get divorced? No, I'm kidding. Um,
Did you see the shock on my face? I go,
my fun question today, because this movie is very kind of East versus West, New York versus LA.
yeah.
So I was thinking, Natalie, if you had to pick one city to live in for the rest of your life, so you don't ever get to move out, you have to stay there. Would you rather live in New York or LA?
Dang. You know, that is a tough question.
Hmm.
But I can still travel, right?
Yeah, you can still travel. You're not locked there. But let's say the most you could travel is like you can be out of LA or New York for like a month maximum.
Okay. I think I'm a New York girl.
Hmm.
I wish that I was LA, but I don't know that I could do the traffic. You know
Yeah.
how he says in this movie, he's like, we can walk. He's like, we can walk everywhere.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's just too much driving. The one thing that is pulling me a little bit to LA would be Disneyland.
Yeah.
But if I can travel there, I can go to Disney World,
What about
then
the
whatever.
space, Natalie? There's so much space in
There's so
LA.
much space. That's true. It is if funds, I mean both places are expensive. So
Yeah.
actually, funds I'm not even taking into account. Because in
Hmm.
this fake scenario, we're both rich and it doesn't matter.
Yes.
And wherever we'd live would be great. So if I could have unlimited choices, I think I would choose New York.
Solid. Solid.
But
Well,
also, New York has just been calling me the last couple of months. So I'm a little biased.
yeah. I would choose LA.
But you grew up in LA,
Very much a
so
bias there. So,
yeah.
um, but I feel I don't know. Like I've only been to New York once. I want to go back, and it was super fun. But ironically, given that they make a joke about this in the movie several times, it really is a space thing for me. Like New York is so jam packed, and I was in Santiago for 2 years, which is known as like the New York of South
Yeah, but
America.
you can live in like Brooklyn. I mean, it's gonna be
That's true.
worse. No, I mean it's gonna be bad no matter where. But like when you travel to
Yeah,
New York, you're like in Manhattan.
that's true.
You
That's
know what I
true.
mean? And so it's like, yeah, it's extra jam packed, but like Brooklyn's kind of,
Yeah,
let me
I'd
make my
still
case.
I'd still say LA just because I feel like I could have a house in LA, whereas in New York,
That's fair.
Brooklyn, like yeah, you could
That
maybe
is true. I
somewhere
don't know. I don't know that I'd want to raise a family in New York.
mm, like in
But
a
I think if it
townhome.
was just me,
Yeah,
then I would do New York.
yeah. But yeah, I think my main thing besides the space is the beach, which like New York kind of has a beach, but no, it doesn't. No one's gonna go swimming in the freaking Manhattan like ocean. That place is
Manhattan
disgusting.
Ocean.
Whatever it's called. What is it called?
I don't know.
There's a name for it. The
I
Hudson,
know.
I think. Yeah.
Well, isn't that
I
the
think
river?
it's oh maybe it is. Well, no, because doesn't Black Widow tell or
We're
doesn't
gonna
Captain
sound so
America tell
stupid.
Black Widow? Like I saw a pod of whales in the Hudson in Endgame.
I don't
Like
know.
why would he see whales in the river, Natalie?
We're gonna sound so
Um,
dumb. But all I know is that I don't really care about beaches. Hot take.
lame.
Hot take from Natalie. I can travel to a beach. If I'm gonna be on a beach, like I want to be in Hawaii.
Yeah, I can see that. Like I definitely prefer like a lot of other beaches over LA beaches, but I'd still much rather go swimming in LA beach and like do like beach volleyball and stuff in
That's
LA
fair.
than New York.
That's fair.
Um,
You
and
know,
just the
maybe
weather.
maybe I can't choose because maybe I do want to live in LA.
Yeah.
But
Well,
but the pizza.
oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
You get access to pizza. Honestly, like food overall, like New York for sure.
Yeah, food overall, definitely New York. I didn't go to as many LA food places as I should have growing up, but like LA's not known for their food. New York is known for its food.
And also
So
unlimited access to going to see Broadway shows.
that's true. And in this
The
hypothetical scenario, we're
Outsiders.
rich, so we don't even have to worry about like we'd always have good seats going to Broadway
Yeah,
shows.
we would go get good seats to Broadway shows and go
Hmm
see opening shows, go see original casts,
hmm I would.
go see
Here's a.
celebrity castings. Like whenever Hugh
Hmm
Jackman decides to be in whatever show,
Be the Music Man for the fifth time
then
or
you get to
whatever.
go. Yeah, then you get to go.
Yeah, I think like I wouldn't mind living in New York for a year of my life or
That
so.
is true. I do think if it's the rest of time, like
Uh,
I think I would have to do LA just because that's more homey to me, like more like you were saying, like have an actual house and whatever. But there's just still something inside me that's like, but living in New York would be so sick.
yeah, and it seems like most people who live in New York develop a love for it pretty quickly and
Mhm.
have like affinity for it. So who knows? But as of now, I would
Yeah.
pick LA.
I'm torn. I'm just gonna stick with my guns and say New York since it's more interesting that way.
Hmm If
But
I
I
could
could do
sum up,
either.
yeah, if I could sum up my feelings, not my feelings, but sum up just the experience of watching Marriage Story in one phrase, I think it's what you just said, which is I'm torn. And with that amazing transition, let's get into it. So,
Love it.
just quick overview about Marriage Story based on Google, which I don't even agree with this overview,
Oh no.
which I'll explain in a second. But it says a stage director and his actor wife struggle through a grueling coast to coast divorce that pushes them to their personal and creative extremes. I
Yeah.
don't think it really is creative extreme. I would say personal extreme. But anyways, yes, Marriage Story, directed by Noah Baumbach and written by Noah Baumbach, commonly known as Greta Gerwig's husband. I don't know if they're married actually. I think they're
I
married.
did not know this fun fact. Thank you, Garrett.
He co-wrote Barbie and stuff too. They help each other write their movies all the time. They're a
Slay.
Hollywood power couple, but um, starring Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, as well as Laura Dern and a couple of other big faces like Ray Liotta. Marriage Story is what year did this come out? Came out 2019 on Netflix and was a big Oscar contender that year. Don't think it won anything.
It came out on Netflix.
It was a
Oh,
Netflix movie.
this is why you're here to give me the fun facts.
Exactly. I should start doing that more. I should start reading like trivia on the movies we watch, and then we can have like a fun fact segment. You can have the
Yeah,
nerd segment.
I
Yeah.
love the nerd segment.
Anyways, so just a quick reminder of our scoring system, our rating system. We rate it on popcorn bucket scales. So we rate like the size of the bucket is what we would say is the objective, as best we can, objective opinion on this movie of is it well made, that type of stuff. So it'd be small, medium, large bucket, extra large
large.
bucket. And then there's also no bucket, which I invented last episode for Divergent. Um, and then for subjective things like our own personal enjoyment, we give it no butter, with butter, extra butter, drowned in butter, which is
Sometimes
another one I
light
just made
butter.
up. Yeah, sometimes light butter, just
You
we
never
kind of make
know.
it up as we go.
You
Yeah.
just kind of go with whatever you feel in the moment.
Exactly. So for today's episode, we're going to switch things up a little bit, the order of which we do it. Instead of starting with plot first, we're going to start with character because it's a very character focused, very character driven movie.
Yes.
So, Natalie, what did you give character?
Let me check my notes here. I could guess, but I don't want to be wrong. Character, I gave it an extra large bucket with butter.
Nice. Actually, before we get into this, because usually we do have some sort of, when we talk about plot, we get a general sense of how we like the movie. So we won't go into plot now, but I do want to know, what are your kind of thoughts on this movie? Not necessarily overall, but just thoughts on the movie before we get into it.
Lots of mixed feelings. I'm not sure that it found me in a good headspace in life. I was not I was not wanting to, be
This
depressed.
is horrible timing on my part.
I'm like I went to start it. It was kind of like when I started Godzilla -1.
Yeah.
And I like watched 20 minutes of it and then took a nap. The exact same thing happened with this movie. I was like, I don't know that I can watch all of this right now, so I took a nap and then I went back to it later. Just because it comes out swinging and it doesn't end. It's a drama, which for the most part I enjoy. But I was telling Annie, your sister, this, that I love drama when there's happiness involved. Like I love the drama and the conflict that then leads to a happy ending, because that's what. And not that this doesn't, sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Not that this doesn't, like, obviously the conflict is resolved in a way, but it's a very heavy movie.
Very heavy movie.
And not something that I necessarily would want to, have in my life ever. Or enjoy really watching. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not something that I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is so entertaining.
Exactly.
Not to get to entertainment value already, but.
Well,
anyways.
we could go there. I feel like that'd kind of be a good kind of basis for our thoughts.
Yeah.
And like just overall thoughts.
Yeah. If we're going there, my entertainment value, I just said that, like, I'm not sure that it's like entertaining to watch because it's so hard to watch.
Definitely.
But it was a well done movie.
Yeah.
But and so I think objectively, not to get to my overall score, because we'll save that for the end. Objectively, this is an amazing movie. Like, the writing and everything is really good. I just am not sure that for me, it's something that I would ever necessarily pick up to watch again, just because there's so much to it, and it's a lot.
It's a tough
I don't know.
watch.
That was that was just kind of a lot of rambling, but it is a tough watch. And I don't mind tough watches sometimes, but this one I was just kind of like, oof.
Yeah. I think for my entertainment value, it's definitely kind of what you were saying. It's not a watch every weekend type of movie. Not like you put this on with your friends to like be entertained type of movie.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, I'm not gonna tell anybody to go watch this movie. I'm glad I did, but I'm not gonna go be like, oh my gosh, you have to go watch Marriage Story.
Definitely,
it should be called Divorce Story.
Yeah, I think. For me, the reason I find myself wanting to revisit this movie so much is because of the performances and the writing, like you were saying. Like, objectively, I think pretty much every aspect, not most aspects, we'll get to a little bit of what things I don't super like as we continue, but I think the performances and the writing is just phenomenal across the board. And that's what always kind of draws me back to it. Not necessarily that I'm in love with the story or in love with these like characters, but just it's actors and writers and directors at the top of their game. And I feel like as somebody who wants to be a filmmaker, I can learn a lot from that, and I get a lot of value from that. So I do enjoy watching this every once in a while. It'd been a couple of years since I've seen this. And at one point in my life, I would have called this one of my like top 10, top 15 favorite movies. Not anymore. Definitely not anymore. Not that it's bad. I think it's still, up there for me. But as time has gone on, I think I much rather prefer more fantastical stories as opposed to like the slice of life movies,
Hmm.
which I still think there's a lot of goodness to be had in slice of life movies. Like, for example, Lady Bird, or not Lady Bird, that's another thing in another Greta Gerwig movie. Little Women
Yeah.
is a like similar slice of life movie, but there's more to, there's more of it's a period piece. It's not, I'm just
Hmm.
watching these, people in modern times go through a divorce. I'm watching these little women grow up.
Hmm.
So there's a little bit more to get attached to, or a little bit more to get kind of, um, what's the word I'm thinking of? More fantastical things, not necessarily fantastical, but it's easier to get engrossed in the movie. There's another word, but
Hmm.
I can't think of it.
Well, I also just
Um,
think that like slice of life movies, like I don't know. My perspective on these kinds of movies is that like okay, I as my own human dealing with my own issues, I feel like when I watch a movie like this
mhm.
that I end up feeling like I'm like, ugh, like I'm a part.
Yeah,
Like it makes you feel like you're a part of this divorce in
this
this movie.
divorce. You're
Like,
Henry. You're their kid.
no, genuinely, because you're watching these two people, fight about what they want and, get share their side and like. I'm not sure that
Yeah,
I'm really on either person's side necessarily because I think they're right in their own ways, but I don't know that as a viewer, as a person who wants to find entertainment in movies, escape in movies,
yeah,
is that a movie like this is necessarily what I would ever reach for.
definitely.
But I do understand how somebody who wants to make movies like you or like people who want to write or I think you could find a lot of inspiration from this movie. And see, like you said, people at the top of their game and
Yeah,
creatively, but I'm not sure that for me I would ever be like
like
I need to watch Marriage Story
I need to
again.
watch Marriage Story again. I need to watch these two people go through a
I need
divorce
to
again.
you know what I really need in my life? A 2-hour movie about
Divorce.
divorce.
Yeah. The word I was looking
Yeah.
for as you said it, I remembered it. Immersion. Like
Mhm.
I want to a lot of the times, especially now at this point in my life, which could be different a couple of years from now, but right now I watch movies to be more immersed in some story rather than just watch a slice of life thing. Now I think obviously like I said there's some value to it, but I think in those immersion stories there can be slice of life moments. For
Mhm.
example, I love scenes in Mission Impossible Fallout, for example, not a very slice of life movie by any means. And not that this is really a slice of life scene. What I mean by slice of life is just like quiet, just character moment that overall might
Mhm.
not seem important, but it's building those characters. So, for example, in Fallout, there's this really good moment when um, they're like escaping with that guy that they just broke out of prison, and they open the garage, and there's just some random, just French cop there, cop lady who's just innocent, super young, and is seeing them like put this dude in a straitjacket in a car. And Ethan has this moment of telling her to just like walk away, like you didn't see anything. And then these guys come and are about to kill this random lady, and then Ethan saves her, and then just tells her to like call it in, and then they drive off. And it's really not that important of a scene, but it just builds Ethan's character so much and makes you learn a lot more about how heroic and selfless he actually is. And so I love those moments in like fantastical movies, like something that you would see in just an average drama that you're seeing in a bigger movie. Yes.
I have a couple examples as well that I don't know if
Yeah.
this is what you're saying, but a couple popped into my head as you were talking, like in Top Gun Maverick when they're playing football on the
Yeah.
beach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like something like that where it's like, okay, like you get the slice of life, but you're also like watching something
Mm-hmm.
that is, immersive and you're seeing a different perspective, a different world. Whereas I think my issue with a movie like Marriage Story comes as this could happen in
Yeah.
my life. Whereas like when I'm watching like Top Gun Maverick, I'm like, dude, I want to be a pilot, but like not really.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I could do this, but like I don't actually want to.
Definitely.
Or where, and like even like romance movies and stuff, like those are entertaining, but like they're so like over the top. Like you're never really gonna be having this like, whatever dramatic thing happen. I'm never gonna fake
Hmm.
date somebody and then accidentally fall in love.
Fall in
You
love with
know,
them. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But with something like this, I'm like, oh, like that could really happen in my life for somebody that I love's life, and like I
Yeah.
don't want no part of that. Like, and so it's just like, ooh. Another example that I thought of when you were sharing that Mission Impossible story. Was just like those parts that make like characters human and whatever. Sorry, we're on
Yeah.
a big tangent right now.
But this will
but
lead into character very well, I think.
but one of my favorite movies, as you probably know, is The Amazing Spider-Man, and number two, when he like goes and helps the little like nerdy kid.
Jorge. Yeah.
Yes, Jorge.
Uh-huh.
And he like goes and like helps him with like whatever. He gets bullied and they break his science project or whatever, and then he goes and he's like, "Here, like let me fix it for you."
Yeah.
And then Jorge comes back at the end. But anyways, just things like that.
Yeah. It's
Kind of off topic, but
exactly. It's scenes that build the characters in movies that are usually, heavily reliant on some bigger plot. You have these smaller character moments, which to the overall plot might not seem important. Like the in Top Gun, them playing football on the beach is probably not super important to the actual plot, but we're getting to know these characters more and fall in love with them, so we actually care about them when plot things start to happen. And to transition this back into talking about characters of this movie, this is a movie where the plot isn't, stop these evil Russians from doing this thing or anything like that. It's we're just getting a divorce. And so this movie is just filled with small character moments where you get to know both the good and bad sides of Charlie and Nicole and some of the other characters. And so in that sense, it can be a bit exhausting to just watch small scenes over and over and over again. But anyways, getting back to
yeah.
character, what are your thoughts?
Did I already give it my grade?
Yeah, it was extra
Um,
large bucket with butter, right?
yeah. I
Yeah.
think without having, like you said, without having these like strong characters, this movie wouldn't work.
Hmm.
So, like, you have to, and character goes with acting as well. And so that was very heavily influenced. That very heavily influenced how I graded it, because I think that acting as well, like if we didn't have good performers in these roles, it wouldn't work. And
Yeah.
so, I just gave it butter because I was like, I liked it. I liked these characters enough to, end up. I mean, I would say by the middle of the movie, I was like, okay, now I have to know what's going on.
Yeah.
I would say leading up to that point, I don't know at what point it took a turn for me, but getting into the movie was tough because I knew that since it had started the way that it started, that this was going to be the whole movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, how are they going to do 2 hours of this? And then halfway through, I was like, okay, like I'm getting into it. Maybe it was with once they included more of like the lawyer stuff, and then Charlie had to, be figure out how to be in LA and then find his lawyers. And then, anyways, I think that's kind of when I was like, okay, now I kind of want to know how this all gets resolved. But up to that point, I was like, bruh, we just gonna go back and forth.
Yeah.
Which is what it ended up doing. But anyways, yeah, that's kind of what my grade is, my perspective. I think for the most part, I'm on Nicole's side.
Hmm.
But I do understand Charlie in some ways. So, yeah.
Solid.
What do you think?
So for me, I gave it a large bucket with butter. Um, at one point, I probably would have said extra large bucket, but I think, Charlie and Nicole as the two main characters are really, really good characters, but everybody else is like, they're good, but they're not, incredible. And then I enjoy what we get from everybody. So gave it a butter, but I kind of have thoughts on three of the characters specifically: Nicole, Charlie, and Nora. Starting off, I'm gonna actually start at the bottom with Nora. I freaking hate Nora. Nora sucks. This time around, I kind of picked up on how much the movie kind of also doesn't like her, because, you know, when I watched it the first few times back when it first came out, it kind of seemed like, oh, like Nora's great. She helps Nicole and all this stuff. Like she helps her find her independence, which is true to some degree. But this time around, I kind of picked up on how she pretends to be selfless and pretends to kind of actually care about Nicole and Charlie, like figuring things out. But really, like, I think she does to some degree. But we see a few scenes where she kind of doesn't really care about them. She just wants to really get the job done. For example, there's that one scene right before they go into the courthouse when she sees Charlie's new lawyers. I can't remember the guy's name. And
Yeah.
she's like, oh, dang, like I hate these guys. But then she goes up and she says, like, we're going to have to get nasty because the system rewards bad behavior. And it's like, excuse me, what? And then she goes and like totally pretends to be like friends with this lawyer guy. And then when Nicole looks down, she sees like the binder of the case and it's just like case number. And then it's just like a bunch of random numbers. Whereas like Nicole kind of, yes, obviously in the legal world, it's still like every case is numbered, but it just, that scene kind of to me shows the point of like, this is just another job to Nora. This isn't like
Mm-hmm.
Nicole's, like for Nicole and Charlie, this is their whole world. But for Nora and the other lawyers, it's like, this is just another job. This is what they do every day.
Yeah.
There's also the very end when she's like, oh yeah, I got you 55% custody and he gets 45
Yeah.
or whatever.
And it's almost just for her. Like, she's like, I didn't want him to say that he could do that. And it's
Yeah.
like, did you not want him or did you not want you to say that you
Yeah.
lost? Yeah.
And it's like Nora or Nicole's like, I don't want that. And Nora
Yeah.
just like went behind her back and did it.
Yeah.
So, and Nicole at that moment, she's like washing dishes or whatever. You can kind of see she kind of gets it. Like Nora doesn't
Mm-hmm.
actually really care about them. She just
Yeah.
wanted to get the job done.
Yeah.
But
It was interesting to see Laura Dern in that
Laura
kind
Dern does a
of
great
role.
job. Yeah.
She was really good.
Like I
Um,
did not like her. And I think that's kind of because Laura Dern had such a good performance.
yeah, no, she did really well. And honestly, like, I just don't think I like lawyers now.
Yeah. Except Bert. Bert, the old guy, is funny, but
Hey,
he's terrible at his
Bert
job.
is not great at his job, but he also like he's like you gotta. I just don't like I don't think I like divorce lawyers. I don't think I
Oh.
like divorce. It's too messy. I think it's kind of it's just kind of crazy. Like the whole system. I don't know how accurate it is portrayed in this movie, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was exhausting.
For
But
sure.
yeah, what are your other thoughts on Charlie and Nicole?
Nicole, I think this time around, I felt for a lot more because I've matured as a man and I can recognize the opinions of women in marriages and stuff like that. I think ScarJo's performance is obviously amazing. I still think for me, Adam Driver is the best performer of this movie, which I'll get to when I talk about Charlie in a second. But I still think Scarlett Johansson does a really good job. You kind of forget how good of an actress she is because she's just in like
So many
obviously the
things.
Marvel movies and a bunch of so many random action movies and stuff like that. But when she locks in, she's really, really good.
Yeah.
And I think her wanting her independence is obviously super valid. And I disagree with some things she does, obviously. But her husband also cheated on her. So, I mean, she's kind of valid in most of her opinions. But with
Yeah.
that said, completely blindsiding Charlie with Nora is pretty messed up, in my opinion. Like, homie was not aware that any of that was going to happen. And then wasn't really aware of how severe and serious the situation was until Nora had to like call him and be like, by the way, she can get full custody of your kid if you don't get a lawyer. And he was like, what? And obviously we see him throughout the entire movie kind of struggling with that. And again, while she's valid with a lot of her points, as the case goes on, I do think, which this is not saying, like, this is just good writing because you see the positives and negatives of both people. I think towards the end, she, in that argument scene, which is one of my favorite scenes of the movie, obviously some nasty things are said on both sides that aren't fully true. But she kind of starts to point to Charlie as like everything in her life, or not everything, but a lot of the stuff in her life that's bad can kind of go back to him. Whereas I really like the point in the argument when Charlie says like, you can blame things on me, but at the end of the day, you chose this life. Like, this is what you chose to do. And yes, obviously he could have done a lot better, but just how she's blaming like pretty much everything on him and how he should have been better, which she's valid for that. But it's so interesting how it's like, yes, she's valid, but also she still chose that at the end of the day. But again, not that I'm saying that that's a bad thing. That's just the good writing of it.
Yeah.
And then she does genuinely want what's best for Henry, obviously. And it's sad that that just ends up favoring her new life and leaves Charlie behind. But she does clearly love Henry and wants the best for him.
Well, and I do think that like Henry does love, like he loves LA.
Yeah.
And he talks to his dad. He's like, I like living here. I like school here. I have more friends here. And it's interesting to me because, like, I don't know. I do think that Charlie holds on to a lot of, like, New York is our home. New York is our home. And it's like, that's your home.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's great. But, and yeah, we had a life there. But, like, we've kind of moved on. And, like, either you move with us or you don't. Like,
Yeah.
so, which again, at the end, you kind of see him, like,
Start to
figure that out a little bit.
Yeah.
But, yeah, because it's funny because they do talk about, it's one of his lawyers says, like, the kid's going to tell you what you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he tells Nicole that, but Henry's telling him that he likes
I like
LA.
LA. Yeah.
And so it's like, what? Like, cause isn't it Nicole's like, Henry likes it here. Like, he likes LA. And he's like, well, he's going to tell you what you want to hear. But then Henry's also telling him that. And it's like, he's not telling you what you want to hear. So obviously he likes LA.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Charlie's a very stubborn character, obviously.
Definitely. I didn't even pick
yeah.
up on that. Dang, you pointed something out that I didn't notice. That's crazy.
It's because I think, I don't know, I think it's interesting, I think, to have, like, your perspective and my perspective being, like, I feel like from the first couple times that you've probably seen this movie, since you did mention that you now see Nicole's side a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I think that it's nature for us to kind of be like, oh, like, I'm on Nicole's side because I'm a girl. Like,
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah.
maybe for you to be like, okay, well, I'm on Charlie's side because, like, that's my boy Charlie.
Yeah.
But, so I do think it's interesting the things that, like, maybe I might pick up on in the, like, arguments that they have rather than what you would pick up on, because I think their sides are probably similar to how it might happen in our lives because of gender, like, norms. Really.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
And
how
that,
it
like,
is.
there's a couple scenes that like point that out too, which
Yeah.
I don't really love where Nora's monologue goes for
Oh my
obvious
gosh.
reasons.
Oh
but
my gosh. That I was like, I need to turn this off.
yeah. But up until that point, her monologue is very like valid in what she's
Yeah.
talking about, like the gender roles and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are, like, I mean, I think that's why it's hard too, because I feel bad for Charlie with, like, the whole custody situation, because it is so much harder for, like, dads to get custody, and I was dying at the whole knife situation.
That was so funny.
But yeah, like, it is so much harder for dads to get custody, and, like, the court, the way that he's like, the courts, and he's like, what courts?
Yeah, why do you keep saying court? Yeah.
But yeah, like, the way that people will portray, like, they're gonna be a lot harsher on men.
Yeah.
But anyways, kind of crazy.
And it's just kind of, this is a tangent here, but you pointed out a very funny scene. There are a lot of funny moments in this movie.
There are funny
and
moments,
a lot of funny lines.
It's so hard to, like, appreciate them for what they are, because it's like, ugh. Like, if they didn't have them, that like, this movie you could not get through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways.
Like, Adam Driver's like delivery of some lines are so funny. Like, I love the scene when he gets served and then Nicole's explaining, like, yeah, her name is Nora, she wants to be friends with us, and Charlie goes, why do I feel like that's not going to happen? Just the way he delivers that line is so funny.
Yeah.
But
can I also say something about Charlie? Was not expecting to hear him sing. I was not expecting to hear Kylo Ren
get
sing.
there. We'll get there. We'll get there. Believe me, I have a lot to say about that scene. Um, but anyways, yes, Nicole, I definitely see her side a lot more now. And but here's where I kind of get into a little bit of a negative with this movie, I think, is for me, I kind of moving on to Charlie because this kind of wraps in with Charlie. Like getting this out of the way, he cheated on Nicole. And whatever BS excuse he gives, like that doesn't change the fact that he literally cheated on his wife.
I literally hate cheating tropes.
But with that being said, we don't see that happen in the movie. And presumably it happened like a few months beforehand, like before the movie even starts. So from the audience's point of view, from my point of view, we only see like Charlie get, blindsided into this legal battle, which causes his Broadway debut show to go under. It forces him to pay tens of thousands of dollars he wasn't really prepared to, pay for. It strains his relationship with his son. And he has to juggle a life between New York and LA, whereas Nicole is like becoming a successful actress and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
So from an audience perspective, like, yes, he cheated on his wife and we get told that, but because we don't really see that, for me, a lot of the times I still find myself like, I'm not on a side, but I kind of lean towards Charlie a little bit more because we just see him go through it more in the movie. Whereas if this started a couple months before, we would see Nicole go through it at the start and then kind of get a little bit more of the both sides of it. So it's just a slight negative for me where I wish, not that I want to see a man cheat on his wife, but there just could have been something, I think, more for me to see like, oh yeah, this guy is kind of a scumbag sometimes.
Yeah.
Because kind of with that out of the way, I freaking love Charlie's character. Like as a writer, Charlie is such a good character. And I relate to this dude in both very good and very bad ways. Not that I'm going to cheat on my wife, obviously.
Garett,
not
what
that
are
I'm
you
gonna
saying?
Not that I'm going to cheat on my wife, but just as a writer, as a director, as an artistic type of person, and just an overthinker and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that Charlie does in this movie where I relate to that on a lot of things. So, or what were you going to say?
Yeah. I also think that it's interesting, like, because, I mean, I don't hate Charlie by any means. I do think that I think if you don't see him struggle, like, I think if he had done what Nicole did by, like, getting the lawyers and whatever involved and all that, and then you just saw Nicole, like,
then he'd be the villain
struggle.
of the movie. Yeah.
Exactly. Because, like, does that make... I didn't know that wasn't really a complete thought.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I do think that you need to see him struggle to gain empathy for him because because of the cheating. I think because a scene that sticks out to me at the very beginning when they do the play. And then she comes in and she's like, I know you have notes for me. Like, just give them to me.
Yeah.
Like, when they're already going through this, like, they know they're getting divorced. They know they're separating. And, like, something about the fact that he just has to tell her what she did wrong just irks me. And then she walks away and starts crying. Like, something about that just, like, I was like, I do not like this man.
Yeah.
And there's a couple things that he does, too, that I'm just like, eh. Just from a woman's perspective, it's like, nah, bro. Like, but I do think he's a great father. I think he's a very cool, successful, like, I think it's cool what he's doing and, like, the whole theater thing and his need for community and wanting to support his community. Like, I think that that's really cool. And I do think that in order for me to appreciate Charlie, he needed to struggle.
Definitely. And I think, wow, you're giving me so much more insight on this movie that I didn't even think of. See, the woman's perspective. This is why we have this podcast.
Got you.
I think kind of talking more to that point, I think Charlie as a husband obviously failed in a lot of ways. But we see him, in group settings or with his friends. Like he's a very lovable guy. Like his theater troupe loves him. Nicole's mom and her sister loves him.
Yeah.
Like everybody loves the guy.
He's a very charming guy.
Exactly. And I think there's so much to his character that is not seen and not said, which I really, really love. Like we hear about very briefly his upbringing where his parents, who Nicole only met once,
Yeah.
like they have a very
Yeah.
traumatic backstory with that, where there was alcohol and some violence involved, which to
Yeah.
the point when in the argument scene when she says like you're acting like your father, he like immediate like that's the thing that sets him off more than anything,
Mhm.
because I imagine there's a lot of baggage that comes with his
Yeah.
father and he'd never wanted to become him, and he probably has in some ways, and that's a very touchy subject for him. And so not that that like obviously gives him an excuse for the things that he
No,
does,
but
but
it
it
does
gives him a
make him make
reason.
more sense.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that you don't see a lot of their relationship and like obviously the steps that like you're hearing both of their perspectives and getting an
Hmm.
idea of what went down. But yeah, I do think that his upbringing for sure plays a part in how their relationship failed.
Definitely. And I think,
And
or go ahead.
I that's not always, you know, a person's fault. Like
Hmm.
but kind of like what you were saying at the beginning with Nicole, in that she chose her life. Yes, she chose her life, but also Charlie has chosen the way that he's treated Nicole and treated his
Yeah.
relationship. And clearly he knows, they both know that it's fallen apart and that they're both, you know, they haven't given it what they have needed to give it. And
Yeah.
he knows, but, you know,
He just doesn't really,
he
and
just does
that's
it anyways.
exactly, and that leads to my last point about Charlie before we move on, is at the end he does like learn his lesson, like he does
Hmm.
finally start to get it. I love, which I've never really picked up on until this rewatch, the scene when he comes back and he tells Nicole that he accepted the job at UCLA, so he's going to move out there for about a year or more, which is exactly what Nicole had wanted to do their entire marriage. Even
Yeah.
like not just necessarily move out there forever, just for a year,
Yeah.
just for something. And that goes to show like he is changing, he has learned, which I'll explain a little bit of. That's the scene where I think he finally gets it when we talk about our favorite scenes. But at that point, it's just too late to save their marriage,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
But you see when he tells Nicole that, you see on her face, like, obviously there's that scene right after where he finds the note and reads that and they're both crying, which is another very good scene. But even before that, when he says, like, yeah, I'm moving out to UCLA, she's kind of shocked by that. And it's almost like she's thinking, like, if this just would have happened like 2 years ago or
Yeah.
3 years
Like
ago
then
or whatever.
like again, if Charlie wasn't so stubborn,
Hmm.
like if he had done what I had wanted, or like if he had gotten to this point a couple years ago, we probably
Yeah.
wouldn't be sitting here right now.
And that's the
Divorced.
tragedy of the ending, is they really hammer home in those last like 5 minutes that these two people still very much care about each other,
Mm-hmm.
and that's probably never going to go away, but they just didn't like learn their lessons soon enough, as in
Mm-hmm.
like Charlie didn't let her like become her own person and stuff like that. And last thing about character, I lied. I do have one more thing. Is just Adam Driver gives one of my favorite performances in this movie of one of the last of like over the last 10 years. I love his performance in this movie. It's not, big bombastic. It's not Kylo Ren. It's not anything like that. It's very quiet and very subdued, but he nails every emotion in every scene. And it doesn't feel like it's overacting. It feels so natural. One moment he can feel like a loving father. The next moment it's like, I do chill. And I really, really love his performance, which I think will lead us into favorite scenes. So, Natalie,
Okay.
what are your favorite scenes?
I would say that my favorite scenes throughout the movie are like the funny ones where it gets a little bit more lighthearted.
Yeah.
But I also think my favorite scenes are whenever there's a moment where you can see their love shine through the situations that they're going through.
The
One
haircut.
of the haircut, when they're ordering like their lunch and he's like, I don't
That part's
know.
so sad.
I
That part's so
know.
good.
It's so sad. And he's just like, I don't know what I want. And she's like, Charlie will have. It's so
Yeah.
sad. It's so
It's so
sad
cute,
because
but it's so
it's
sad.
so
Yeah.
cute because it's like, okay, well, obviously he relies on her so much for even the smallest tasks, getting a haircut, you know, ordering his food, tying his shoe, just little
Hmm.
things like little moments like that where it's heartbreaking because of what they're going through, but you can see little like pieces shining through of what their relationship was before.
Yeah.
And so I think those are all my favorite scenes, even though they are so it just adds to the heartbreak.
Mhm. It really does.
But I think they're so well done.
Yeah. Like it makes me just so sad because I'm like, I wish there was a movie where it's a different story, but they're just, if they actually stick to the title of Marriage Story and not Divorce Story, and we just got to see this happy marriage, that'd be great.
Yeah, if we got Marriage Story, that would be great. But we got Divorce Story.
Yeah. Any other scenes that you wanted to point out?
I do think that like the letter scenes, the opening and the closing were really, really good. I thought it was interesting the whole like Charlie wanted to read. He's like, "Well, I think mine's good. Like I'll read it."
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. And she's like, "I'm not reading this."
Yeah.
Probably because she knew that if she read it, like she would, have all those feelings would resurface, and she's like, I don't want to revisit them. I've already made my choice, because that's kind of what my thoughts are on that. Like, she's like, I wrote them, but I'm not going to look at you and read it to you.
Yeah.
But anyways, I thought that those scenes were good. I think it gave us a little, any like glimpse of joy was my favorite scene.
Nice. Well, that's funny because my favorite scenes were a lot of the gut punch scenes. The argument scene is super hard to watch,
I can't do it with that.
but it does such a good job of showing
I like
you
the memes though.
Yeah, every day I wake up. But I think that just says it shows you what acting angry looks like without overacting. Because I feel like in a lot of movies, when people act angry, it's just kind of a second's notice. They go from like nothing to super pissed off.
Yeah,
And
it
not that I
builds
could
in
do any
this movie.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how obviously the full movie, both their angers are kind of building. But even in that scene, there's just so many things that both when they're just talking calmly at the beginning, there's some moments where they both say things that they kind of sets the other one off. And then when they're even like screaming at each other, they're also doing the opposite where they also say things that kind of like not necessarily calm the other person down, but aren't necessarily angry. For example, she keeps calling him like honey. And then she's like, sorry, I keep saying that. Just by reflex, she's just calling him honey as they're arguing. And it's just like, dang. And just again, their acting is so good in that scene. But my favorite scene, which to this day is still one of my favorite scenes in any movie ever, which is kind of a weird one, is the Charlie singing scene, the being alive scene.
Really?
And I'll tell you why.
That's so funny.
That scene is because I think that moment is the moment where it finally clicks in Charlie's head, where he's like, I messed up. I am the one who ruined this. Because you can tell as he's singing, as he goes, at first it's just he's singing the first verse of Being Alive. And it's just this funny thing with his theater troupe trying to like lighten the mood. But then he gets back up there and sings the next verse, which is rather than talking about like, oh, one day I'm going to find love, like one day this will happen. It's more of in the show, from what I understand, it's like a character singing like, oh, he wants to be in love and one day he'll find love. It's like the first verse. But then in this movie, rather than it being like longing for, a future love, it's Charlie reflecting like somebody make me feel alive, as in she made me feel alive. Henry made me feel alive. And because I've messed up, I've lost that and I'm not feeling alive anymore. Like I've lost my life. And it's right before that scene, we see him, in New York living by himself, where he has to go to the laundromat. He has to go get his own haircut. And it's very bland and very boring. So because his wife and his kid now live in LA and he's messed up his relationship with his wife, he doesn't feel alive anymore. And it's that moment singing that song where he realizes I screwed up. And then the very next scene is obviously like a year later when he's decided to move to LA, and which I don't think it's a coincidence that scene immediately follows him singing, because it's showing that he finally did kind of get it, but it was just way too late. And I just love how Adam Driver performs that moment where it starts out as just kind of trying to lighten the mood and funny, but then as the scene progresses, he's not worried about anybody in the bar anymore. It's like him and the song.
Thinking, yeah.
And just how he gets progressively more emotional. And I love how imperfect the vocals are, because obviously in a musical, I want the vocals to be good. But in a movie like this, where it's reflective of real life, I don't care that he's not hitting all those notes. I care that he's belting it out because he's just so filled with this emotion, and he can't, there's no, because Charlie, I'm going on a tangent here, but I love this scene, so I need to. Um, Charlie is a man who obviously grew up in a household with alcohol and violence. He didn't have many things to really, show him love, and I think that's why he's very attached to Nicole and very um, dependent on her for a lot of things, because he didn't have that growing up. And so he has his wife who does a lot of these things for him and kind of makes him feel alive and stuff like that. But anyways, I don't think it's a coincidence that he is like a theater director, and theater and stories is what makes like kind of he's very passionate about, because I imagine that's what helped him grow up. And we see that a couple times when Nicole's like, he cries in movies, and then it's him and Henry at that movie, and he's like, I cried 4 times. And Charlie's like, no way, I did too. It seems like he gets very
I like
attached.
when he says, I wonder if they were the same 4 times.
I wonder if they're the same 4. And so it seems like the way Charlie has been able, as someone who is not to sound pretentious, as someone who is a writer, storyteller as well.
Yeah.
A lot of the way I process emotion is through stories, is through watching movies, is through relating to a character in a movie, or writing down my thoughts, or in a musical, singing a song or something like that. And so it's that scene where Charlie's singing a musical song that he's able to finally process it and able to finally get it. Like he can let out his emotions more easily through a musical and singing a song than he can talking to people, than he can talking to his wife, than he can talking to his lawyer, because that's what's been able to help him do that in the past. And I just love that moment. It's just such a good character moment, and the tragedy behind it and the meaning behind it. And it's so deep that every time I watch it, there's a new layer that gets added to that scene. And I want to create things, I want to create obviously more fantastical things like I was talking about, but scenes in the stories that I write, that I create, that capture that level of emotion and that level of kind of depth to characters that I create. Because I think that's just a masterclass of showing you, because a lot of people watch this movie, see that scene, and they're like, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, that's how
They
I
don't
felt.
really,
so
yeah.
I was like, why is he singing now?
Yeah.
It's
like,
also at the very
like,
end of
this
the
isn't
movie.
a
I was like,
musical.
I'm ready for this to be over.
Yeah.
But I like the perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And so I just love that scene.
Love it.
But anyways, do you have any least favorite scenes? I don't really have any, but if you do.
Yeah, none that stick out. Like, I don't know. I think all of the... I mean, I think if I were to find one, it probably would have been the singing scene until you told me what it was all about. Then maybe I'm like, oh, okay, actually, never mind. It's not that bad. But it just threw me off. I wasn't expecting to hear Kylo Ren sing to me. And so, especially a full song. It's always shocking to me when I'm watching a movie and then the main character bursts out in song when it's not a musical.
Not a musical.
And, like, I love music, so it doesn't usually bother me. But even if the vocals aren't perfect, but I was just like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
And then it was the full song, and I was like, oh, he's not
It's
not
like,
done.
we're
He's
not doing
done.
just a minute of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and actually, wait, I'll save that till later. I'll save that till we talk to aesthetic. What were you going to say?
Okay, no, that's good. We can move on to aesthetic.
Okay, let's go to aesthetic. What did you think? I've been yapping, so
I know, we've been yapping a lot about this movie.
there's a lot to yap about.
I think I gave it large popcorn butter. Large, oh my gosh. I'm glitching. Large popcorn bucket with extra butter. I think the aesthetic is like my favorite part of the movie. I love pretty scenes. It was, now that you say that it was Greta Gerwig's husband, I can see their styles kind
Definitely.
of coincide
They're very
a little
similar.
bit. Very
yeah.
similar writing styles, very similar like vibes in the shooting and directing and all that stuff. Cinematography, I liked it a lot. I liked the colors. I liked what's the aspect ratio of that?
I could tell you, but I don't know.
Well, I like the aspect ratio.
Yeah.
You know how it's like a little, it's not as like, it makes it feel more intimate and cozy because
Yeah.
it's a little bit, it's not as wide and like big screen
Yeah.
IMAX. But it sounds like I know what I'm talking about. I don't. I just noticed that it was, when it's on like a TV, it's not the ratio that things normally are these days.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I liked the aesthetic. I thought it was good. I think it fit what the movie was. It was my favorite part of the movie because I had to look at it the whole time. And but yeah, what did you think?
I gave it a large bucket with butter. Um, so I mean, I might change that to extra large bucket with butter now that you say all those things because it is really well shot, very well staged. Um, like the movement of scenes is really cool. I really like. There's a lot of moments like at the beginning when she's talking to Charlie and she's so nervous about this pilot and she's like, "Did you read the script?" And he was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Like, do you think it's dumb? Like, you just think it's dumb?" He goes, "Well, I don't really watch a lot of TV, so I don't really know." And then
And then
it
he's
pans
watching
to
TV.
him watching TV. And so
Yeah.
I love visual
See, Charlie's
comedy.
like low key a tool, bro.
Yeah. Like he's just a people pleaser to a like negative degree.
No, it's so
And
bad.
I love that it's shot on film, great cinematography. Like you said, the aspect ratio not being widescreen gives it a cozy feeling, a homey feeling, which is ironic, but I think that's the point.
But it's supposed to feel intimate. It's supposed to feel like you're
Exactly.
like there with them.
Yeah.
Like even the shots of Charlie when he's like walking in New York were so interesting to me because I'm like, why does it feel like I'm
I'm
across the
walking.
street from
Yeah.
you? You know, like I thought that it was. I mean, I could literally like, and obviously I've been to New York 2 times in the last like 6 months, but like I'm like I know exactly where he is. You know, so
Yeah.
it was like it was cool in that way because I was like, oh my gosh, like I know where you are.
I've been
I've
there.
been
Yeah.
there, and like I've been there, and I feel like I could be there with you the way that it was shot. You
Definitely.
know,
And I love the colors of it, how New York is usually like darker and the
darker, and
contrast is up
then
higher.
yeah, and
And then
then
LA's a lot
LA's
brighter.
softer,
Yeah.
more orangey.
Mm. And that adds to like the East versus West aesthetic of it all, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this is what I was gonna say about the being a live scene, which I'll say now. I love long takes, and this movie is just a movie full of long takes.
It really is, yeah.
They are they have to be
Monologues.
used well, obviously, but long takes like they just let the actors act. You get to see
Mm-hmm.
it all. It doesn't cut away. You just get to see every single micro expression, every single micro emotion. And I think this movie is an excellent job of showing you what a good long take looks like. So yeah, I loved it.
Love it. Nice.
Moving
Music.
on to music.
I think I gave this one like medium. I think
Mhm.
like thinking of it now, I think medium popcorn bucket, butter.
Yeah.
I liked it. I Music has to do a lot to stand out to me. I've noticed throughout these movies.
Hmm.
But what did you
Definitely.
think? I think it fit. I thought it was good.
Hmm.
I don't know who did the music, but I do think that it could be music that I would listen to, um, outside of watching this movie. But I don't think that I'm
Yeah.
gonna be adding it to my playlist. You know.
Yeah. So the composer for this movie is Randy Newman, who is famous for Toy
Ah, Toy
Story.
Story.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
Randy, I see you.
you can kind of pick up on that. There's moments where it's like that just sounds like Toy Story.
It's like Woody.
And he saw
Buzz.
the guy who plays Rex was in this movie. I can't remember his name in the movie, but he's like the
Oh, yeah,
old
yeah,
guy in their theater
yeah,
troupe.
yeah.
And she
He's
was like,
also in
"Well,
Clueless.
yeah. Oh, he is in Clueless. I forgot about that. He's a reoccurring character on this podcast. But
Yeah.
I gave the music medium bucket with a little bit of butter. I think the music is
Yeah, I'll say a
good.
little bit of butter too.
Yeah, like it's good music, but I kind of disagree with a little bit of what she said. I don't think it really fits the tone of this movie. That's one of
You
the
think
one
it's too light and
things.
airy?
Yeah, like I don't know what I would replace it with necessarily, but like I said, it sounds very Pixar. It sounds very Toy Story almost. It doesn't complement how dramatic I think this movie is. Not that I want some somber, especially
Yeah, but
given
I
the
wonder if that was
weight.
the point.
I think when I think about it, I think it is. I just don't really agree with that. Like
Do you
I
think if it was
understand.
Do you think if it was with heavier music that you would like it though?
Not necessarily. Like, it's not necessarily the light music that it just, it was like a full orchestra, which I feel like a
Mm.
full orchestra
It's
doesn't
too.
really fit
Yeah.
this
No, that's
tone.
fair.
Like if it was more just piano focused, like violin focused, anything like that, where it's more singular or quieter, I think it would work. And there's not a ton of music in this
Yeah, I
movie.
was gonna say there are a lot of times where there's no music at
hmm
all.
I think it fits. There are scenes that it fits, like the Halloween scene where he's
Yeah,
trick or
yeah,
treating
yeah.
with Henry. That's funny. Like it's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be a lighthearted scene. Um, so I think it works then. But I still like it's a little too Pixar for me. It's a little too like I'm watching Mike and Sully or I'm watching Buzz and Woody, where it's like I get not like you pointed out, and I've heard this before of that's the point, but I would have preferred something a little
You
different,
would
not
have
necessarily more
something that
darker.
matches.
Yeah, something that matches the tone a little bit more, but
Yeah, that's fair.
still good.
I saw something like because I went on Letterboxd and like was looking at some of the reviews before
hmm
we recorded, and I did see somebody say like put a review about how the music is so well done and genius,
hmm
and so I'm curious as if like to like if I dived deeper into it to like understand what the thought process was behind all the music, that maybe I would
Yeah.
appreciate it more because I feel like that tends to happen when
hmm
you dive a little deeper, but to be fair, I probably won't do that. So, because somebody was like, the music is amazing and like the way that they use music, and I was like, okay, I didn't pick
Yeah.
up on that. So,
From what I know about the music, from what I've looked into, is there's there's themes established at the very beginning when they're doing their monologues of what they love about each other.
that
It's
then
like
come
doing
back.
the
Yeah.
montages. Is for Nicole's talking about Charlie. That's like the theme of like Nicole's love of Charlie, and then Charlie's is like his love of Nicole,
So
and
then
then
that's when
both
it
of
like comes
those,
back and stuff.
yeah, and both of those play throughout the movie in certain scenes,
Mm.
and so it's like, oh, that's cute. Um, but again, like I just don't know how much I like. If I were to make this, I might have changed it, but still good, still good.
Yeah, love it. I feel like
Um,
we've kind of talked a lot about plot
yeah,
within everything else. So, what is your official grade for it?
my official grade for it is medium bucket with butter. Again, good, like it's a good plot. It's a more character focused movie, and it's not a very hard plot. It's just, yeah, they're getting divorced. It's not a, go save this person or go destroy this thing or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's like, it's good. Medium bucket with butter. It's serviceable. It's what it's supposed to be.
yeah. I would probably agree. I think I'd give it medium bucket, maybe like light butter for me, but
Mhm.
I agree.
Yeah. And I think every time I watch it, like I've kind of been saying, I get something new out of it. And it does a
Mhm.
good job, really, of showing you. I knew this, obviously, but it does a good job of showing you both sides of their divorce.
Mhm.
Um,
I think
and
I think if I'm going to like include writing and everything in it, then it would bump up a little bit.
yeah,
But I think overall, just like the actual plot alone, medium bucket, light butter. I think to add the writing into it, then maybe I would bump it up, maybe like large with butter.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely. I think if we are incorporating writing, I'd probably do large and with not necessarily extra butter, but a little bit more than normal butter.
Yeah,
Actually,
a little sprinkle.
I might give it extra butter. This movie is so well written, but the last thing I'll say about this before we get into overall thoughts is, man, like I said, I get something new every time. This time it was, I really, really, really don't want this to happen in my life.
No, I know. It's
And
scary. That's what I keep saying. I'm like, this was a. I keep going, because
yeah,
I'm like, that's how it felt. Like, I'm like, I don't want this to happen to anybody I know. I don't
yeah,
want this. Like, it just makes me so sad for the people that I do know that have been through divorce. It's
mhm,
like so messy, so awful. I don't want anybody to have to live through it. And I especially don't want me to go through anything like this.
yeah. And hard on my sleeve a little bit here. It was really, I think, good. Like I said, I just got rejected by someone, and it was very. it was very good for me to see this movie right after, I think, to kind of be like, okay,
Could be
when
a
I
lot
do get
worse.
in a relationship, like it could be a lot worse, but also as I've been saying a little bit throughout, I relate a lot to Charlie. And so this showed me a lot of what not to do. And it was a very good
There you
warning
go.
of like this. It was a guide, like obviously aside from cheating on my wife, because I will never cheat on my wife. But apart from him cheating, there was other things that he did that wasn't great. And so it was a guide of like what not to do in my marriage and relationship. So it was a very, I think, necessary watch for me at this point in my life. Not that I'm married or in a relationship, but as someone who hopefully soon will get into those relationships,
Me and you both, G.
yeah, it was good for me to see this is what I should be doing and this is what I should not be doing.
Yeah.
Because I have a tendency to be very like Charlie in the sense of think a lot about like how this is going to help me overall rather than how this is going to help both of us overall.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed this time, this movie's so good on a writing level. I'm sorry. But I don't think he says one time throughout the whole movie when he sees Nicole, like, how are you? Or are you
Yeah.
doing okay? And that says a lot. And it's not that he doesn't care. He obviously very clearly cares about her. It just, that's not what he does. He's just not used to
Mm-hmm.
that. And so, I don't know. I just need to be better at asking, being really caring about people. And I think this movie helped me recognize that. So,
Look after your people, G.
mhm.
Love it.
Anyways, not to move away from the sappiness. Actually, we might not, because when do you think we should watch this movie? When is the perfect time to watch Marriage Story, Natalie?
Never. Don't. No, I'm just kidding. It was good. I don't know. Fall?
I couldn't really come up with a season
Late
for
fall?
this
Like
one.
late November.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know, because that's like Christmas season.
I say never. I say don't
Yeah.
watch this movie.
I said rather than a season, I said a mood. If you're in the mood to be
Yeah.
depressed
Ooh,
or
I like
cry.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like we should change this segment because I do think that there are some movies that are very clearly a season or a month in my brain. But I feel like a movie like this isn't necessarily that, but it is a mood.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if you're if you're already in depression and you're like, I want to feed this monster.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I need to just be more depressed, then this is a good time. Go for it.
Yeah. I think if you're depressed, if you want to cry, but also obviously, yes, it can feed the monster big time. But in my experience just now, it also can be pretty therapeutic.
There you go. There you
Need
go.
that.
I think you need to be in the mood for a lot of heaviness.
Definitely. Definitely. So for
You
the
need to
viewers who
be
watch
maybe
this
you
movie,
need to be in a more stable mood.
yeah,
Maybe that's
yeah,
the
yeah.
problem. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm learning about myself at this time. I'm like, maybe
Mhm.
I need something. Yeah, maybe I needed to be a little bit more stable before I watched this.
Yeah.
Warning to
So,
you guys: be in the right headspace.
I know some people watch the movies before and then like listen to this after. So if you watch this movie and it made your day worse, I apologize.
Yeah, this is Garrett's fault.
But also, I really like this movie, so I don't care.
Love it.
So overall thoughts, Natalie?
I think overall I'm giving it just large bucket, maybe just like somewhere in between medium and like regular butter and large. No, I think I'm just gonna give it butter. Large bucket butter.
Yeah,
I've said my piece. You guys know why.
yeah. I gave it the exact same score, large bucket with butter,
Yay!
for the reasons that we have said for the past hour.
Hour and 10 minutes.
Yes, the characters, the writing, the performances carry it.
Very well.
And so, to wrap up here, Natalie, what movie are we watching next week?
You know, I keep saying after every episode that I want a musical, so I think that this is my time. I wanted to do a light musical, but then I kind of wanted to like carry some of the vibes from this one, but in a way that I think is done better. So I want to watch La La Land.
Oh.
Sorry about it, But I love that movie, and I
This is
really
gonna
would like to
be-
watch it.
This is gonna Marriage Story and La La Land right after each
Back
other is
to back?
crazy. Yeah,
Okay, but I think that they kind of match a little bit.
they do. I'm very excited. I haven't seen La La Land in forever, and I love that movie. I don't know
Okay,
anybody who doesn't
good.
love that movie.
I know some people who don't like it. I'm pretty sure Nicole and Marin don't like it.
Well,
Our
for the
aunt and
people,
cousin.
for people who, if you legitimately like don't like this movie or don't like La La Land, good for you. Yeah, you can have your own opinion. But if you don't like this
Also,
movie,
that might not be true, but anyways, continue.
if you don't like La La Land because I don't like the ending, shut up. Shut up.
You guys-
you just don't understand it. Yeah.
You need to learn how to appreciate art.
Not to be
We are going
pretentious.
to stand on our ground next
Yes.
time. Just you
Exactly.
wait. We're going to be talking. Yeah, no, there are so many people out there that hate La La Land because of the ending.
Shut up. Shut up.
Yeah.
You're media illiterate. You don't understand. I don't want to sound pretentious, but come on. Come on.
No, you are so right. We're going to have some strong thoughts next time.
Yes.
And we're going to be agreeing clearly since we're already
Yeah.
having a discussion. But it should be a fun one. I'm really excited about it.
Awesome. Well,
And we'll
everybody,
get some musical vibes.
we should add, or I guess we already have music. We'll have a lot more to talk about for music because usually that's a quick segment. It'll be a longer one.
This will be all music, so get excited.
Get excited. Well, everybody, go watch La La Land. Go watch Marriage Story if you want to. Form your own opinion, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yay!